Hang on one second. So, welcome. Sandy just welcomed you. We're welcoming you to this meeting. We're going to do an update and a check-in today on the child outcome summary, the process, and how to, so checking in on the process and then how to collect end of the year data that's required. And then if time allows, which I'm thinking it won't because there might be questions, but we can review the presentation on the 16th. That's something you may have missed. If not, we're going to put the link in the chat of that recorded presentation. It is up on the Early Childhood Special Education website. And then we're going to close out the meeting. So we have, I think we have most people here, and it looks like we're recording, so we can get started, Susie.
All righty.
Just a note, everybody else should stay out of the PowerPoint while Susie is presenting so that we don't have any mishaps.
Thank you, Erin. And let's see, I'm going to share my screen. If I can see how to do that. Is it under host tool? Oh, there we go. I got it now. Sorry, I just didn't see the green button. There we go. All right, so welcome and happy to have everybody here. Looks like we have a great big crowd. Today's session, as Erin mentioned, is on data collection and submission for the COS, Child Outcome Summary process. We call the COS process. And so let's get started. Earlier this year, we presented on an overview of the COAS process, its purpose, and some of the strategies for training IEP teams to conduct the activities to obtain the entry and exit scores. Today's presentation is a very quick review of that process, some implications for teams, and suggested steps for activities needed to close out the year for this process. Many of you have identified a variety of tools and processes you plan to use to gather the scores needed to submit at the end of the school year, which is great. We would like to share today some tips and tools to facilitate this process, as you may be working with new teachers or unfamiliar parents to accomplish what administrators need to fulfill their obligations. Ultimately, we want teams to feel confident in the steps that they're going to be taking. We want parents to feel a part of the process, and we want to measure children's outcomes using a common ruler to report on children's performance. So let's take a look at who we're talking about, who is going to be included in the data that you're going to be submitting. Upon entry into the program and upon exit from it, a preschool-age child is rated using the COAS process. For the end of the year, this year, data will be submitted for children who are enrolled in the program with an IEP, are exiting from special education because they are of age going on to kindergarten, or no longer have a disability, and have been in an early childhood special education program for at least 6 months. So there have been some questions that we'll go over at the end regarding who should we be submitting data on, and this captures that. In its simplest form, the process includes observations, age anchoring, and then rating children's functional skills across 3 outcome areas as they enter and then exit the preschool program. Ratings data was shared with schools for children who had scores from prior programs, children who had been in CDS. Schools were asked to rate children at entry, upon enrollment, if they did not have a score, and will rate children upon exit from the program if they are going on to kindergarten. Most of the early childhood assessment practices look to characterize development into the from the 5 developmental domains of early childhood and into the 3 child outcome areas. In special education, these domains of learning are translated into functional outcomes. So skills a child uses to complete tasks and participate in everyday life. So you're familiar as you're working using the tools for determining eligibility, primarily using the developmental domains. And we're asking you to take that information and use that and capture it in these 3 outcome areas. As mentioned, it's important that we are all observing for and reporting on the same things. You have all seen the 3 child outcomes poster. Looking closely, we can see that each outcome area has 6 skill bundles. So you can see right here the 6 skill bundles that are associated with positive social emotional skills. Let's see here. The 6 that are associated with outcome 2 for use of knowledge and skills, and the 6 that are associated with outcome 3, appropriate behaviors to meet needs. So when teams gather information about the skills described in the bundles, we can be assured that the data collected across school classrooms, programs, and states focus on common functional skills. This is important because we want to compare apples to apples to the maximum extent possible. So we're asking you to make sure that you are assessing and gathering information on children in each of these 6 skill bundle areas as you're collecting information on the children and doing your collection of that data. So Jackie is going to talk to us a little bit about what's next.
Thanks, Susie. So at this point in the presentation, I'm going to kind of touch base on, at this point in the school year, where we would be as far as, all right, the activities we've completed and the activities we're working on. So right now, most of you probably had entry posters given to you by your local CDS site, or you may have done the process yourself. You would have put together your COAST team, gathered information about the child's functioning, age anchored the skills and behaviors, and conducted a high quality ratings discussion and reached consensus on the rating scale of 1 to 7 where that child falls. And then you would have completed the COAST form to document the team decisions and entered that entry data onto the spreadsheet. And most of you are probably starting to look at your exit activities. Okay, and let's talk about some of the tools. Many of the districts determine eligibility for special education using a published tool such as the Brigance, Inventory of Early Development, or the DAISY, or a combination of assessment tools. From this information, teams are able to derive a child outcome summary score. There are also tools like Teaching Strategies Gold that can inform your decision on COAST scores. There's not one specific tool that has to be used, as long as one remembers that it is important to have information about the child from all 6 skill bundles in each outcome area. This example shows a way that the Brigance on the left-hand side can be crosswalked to break down assessment domains in relation to the 6 skill bundles of each of the 3 outcomes. It shows how the skills listed in the Brigance cover the breadth of the 3 outcomes, including the 6 bundles of skills that comprise each. And in addition, the Brigance age references the skills, which can be useful for age anchoring when child outcome summaries teams determine ratings on the COAST 7-point scale. Now, whether you're using a published tool or the more organic process described in this, make sure you gather information from parents and all others who know the child enough to have an authentic, comprehensive view of the child's functioning. Some other tools that we'll be talking about that can help are the 2014 North Carolina Age Anchoring Tool and the COAST Rating Decision Tree provided by DAISY, or the Center for IDEA Early Childhood Data Systems. If you didn't use a published tool or a crosswalked tool, you may want to use an age anchoring tool, as depicted here, which will show how to help compare a child's skill level to skills and behaviors expected for their age. In the child outcome summary process, teams may choose to gather information about a child's functioning through teaming discussions for each outcome area. The COS content connector, shown here, lists each of the 6 bundles that teams will gather evidence of for each outcome area. It also provides space for examples of the child's functioning and for what is age-expected behavior. The results are used to come up with an age anchor, the next step in the COS process. As teams gather the information about the child's performance on the 3 outcomes, we need to see how those skills and behaviors are related to each child's age-expected development. Early childhood educators have a great deal of knowledge about child development. The Early Childhood Technical Assistance Team, or ECTA, recommends that we categorize functioning into one of 3 levels: foundational skills, which are the basic early skills needed to demonstrate age-expected development; immediate foundational skills, those that develop just before age-expected functioning; and age-expected skills, those expected for a given age of the child. And the mix of AE, IF, and F are what determine the COS ratings. An age anchoring tool such as this one from North Carolina helps group the expected behaviors into the 3 outcome areas, which may be more helpful than using guidance documents that are geared around developmental domains. Teams can review behaviors expected for the age of the child, gathering info on each of the outcome areas, and rate that functioning initially as foundational, immediate foundational, or age expected to anchor the skill or behavior. From there, teams will determine a rating scale on the 1 to 7 scale. The 1 to 7 COS ratings have criteria representing the mix of the AE, IF, and F skills that the team observes the child using in the course of everyday functioning. Then teams can apply numerical rating that most aligns with the child's functioning on that 1 to 7 scale. This is an example of information a team might have collected on a particular child. This is the content connector form that we had shown previously that lists the 6 skill bundles, and the team provided examples of the child's functioning. They also used the age anchoring tool to describe expected skills for Mary's age. They were then able to anchor the skills to one of the 3 ratings. And this is actually a really good one for time saving and efficiency, because this is one that can actually be given to parents or team members ahead of time, and they can fill out that first examples of child functioning area, and teachers or others can fill out the other 2, and then everyone can meet and discuss and go from there. Now, the decision tree. This helps to guide COS teams members through a series of questions that help them apply criteria for an accurate summary rating. It doesn't serve as the specific script for the full conversation, but as the team discusses the questions, they provide examples from gathering and age anchoring information about the child functioning to reach consensus on a rating for each of the 3 child outcomes. Using the information from this COS connector and the age anchoring that was done for Mary, we can determine her score. So we would start at the top with the first question, which is, does the child function in ways that would be considered age expected with regard to this outcome? And looking over to the left, we would look at our age anchoring and see that yes, which means that we already have established that Mary would fall within the 4 to 7 range on the rating scale. Our next question would be, does the child function in ways that would be considered age expected across all or almost all settings and situations? And looking again to the left, we would see that no, it does not. So the question is, to what extent does the child function in ways that are age expected across setting and situations? And looking over to the left and knowing what we know about Mary, it would be an occasional use of age expected skills. More skills are not age expected, and that would bring us to a COS rating of 4 for Mary in that particular outcome. Once the team is satisfied that they have info on all 6 bundles for the outcome, they can use the decision tree to rate the outcome. And I'm going to give it back to Susie.
There, I needed to unmute. Okay, so now you have seen that process of gathering information, looking at their the observations, looking at whether or not that falls into age expected behavior or not, determining a rating score for the child. You take your rating score and you're going to put it into the spreadsheet that we sent to you earlier, I think maybe February or March. So this is an example, or this is a screenshot of the of that spreadsheet. And the area that you're going to be filling out is here in red. And you can see that we already have scores for entry for all of the students that are enrolled in this program. And so now we need to submit an exit rating score on a 1 to 7 scale here in this part of the spreadsheet. And so we are looking to enter that data into the program. Your list may not have included all of the children who were enrolled. Gathering entry data is an ongoing process, but schools were asked to add children's names as they enrolled and take off kids' names who never attended the program. After teams determine the ratings, they will enter them onto this spreadsheet for children who entered the program, and at the end of the school year, or close to the end, school teams will need to determine those exit scores. Another bit of wisdom from the Early Childhood Technical Assistance Center is that rarely does a child gain more than 1 or 2 points between entry and exit. That's because the expectations are higher for older children. What a 4 looks like for a 3-year-old is much different than a 4 would look for a 4-year-old, for a 5-year-old. So as you review the data that your teams enter, check to see that there are infrequent jumps of more than 2 points. Similarly, for changes going in the opposite direction, moving from a 6 at entry to a 3 at exit is also rare. Scenarios such as these may come from either data entry issues or assessment practices, and administrators may be the first to notice these issues. Note that at this time at exit, you will need to determine if the child made progress. So that's this second, the second box here. So did the student make progress between entry and exit? The team determines the rating, just like the entry process. The progress is discussed, and this is any progress that is made in terms of the 3 outcomes since the entry score was decided. So between the entry, and so now you see what it looks like when it's all filled out. The progress question is a yes or no answer. The answer to the progress question should not be based on changes in the ratings. So just because they went from a 2 to a 4, the team still needs to discuss, has the child shown any new skills or behaviors related to each outcome since the last time they were rated? So for example, if the child was a 4 at entry and a 4 at exit, you might want to answer no. But a 4 as a 3-year-old and a 4 as a 5-year-old are very different. So caution your teams to consider what is meant by progress, any new skill in that outcome area. So we have come to the end of the data collection and data reporting process. And you will be submitting the spreadsheets to us. I think by July 1st was what we said as our date. So by the end of June, you should have completed them and sent them in to us by July 1st. Ooh, I forgot to click those. So we have some questions and answers from questions that we've collected from teams since February when we sent out the spreadsheets. And much of the information that we are going to talk about today can be found in the fact sheet that's on our website. It's called Fact Sheet Child Outcomes Assessment for Preschool Age Children with Disabilities. And we have a link to that on our last page here. So our first question is, do we submit outcomes data at the end of the school year for all children on our roster? And the answer for that would be no, just children who are exiting preschool special education at the end of this year. Exiting preschool in this context means leaving special education or becoming school age and going to kindergarten. Another question that we've had is if children were on our roster but are no longer in the program, what do we do? The names of children that were included on the data collection spreadsheet that we sent to you initially were listed as potentially eligible or were anticipated to be enrolling in the district program as of October 1st. If a child did not enroll, then no COAST process would be conducted. That would not be your responsibility. We had children on our list who, upon enrollment, had an IEP, but did not have an entry score. What's our responsibility for that? So if a child moves into the district, an entry score may be able to be obtained by contacting the local CDS site. If no entry score was ever recorded for the child, the district in which the child enrolls will be responsible for determining the score using the COAST process. And you may have additional questions, and I think we have a little time at the end of this for additional questions. We did want to show you some great references and resources. At the top of this is training and information. So if you have team members who are still learning about the process and want more information, these are all great resources. And then these are the tools that we talked about today. The instrument crosswalks, and this looks at if you have a published tool. The Early Childhood Technical Assistance Center has a way to translate the items in your assessment tool into the 3 outcome areas. So you know which items go in social emotional, which items go in knowledge and skills, and which items would go into behaviors to meet needs. The COAST content connector was that blank form, that document that parents and team members can fill out beforehand. And then we can add in the information on what the expected development is for that child. And that will assist in determining whether or not they are at age expected or in more foundational skills in their development. The age anchoring tool was the one that really groups, it starts at 0 to 3 months old children, and it goes all the way up to 60 months old, but characterizes the developmental skills and behaviors into the 3 outcome areas. So it really makes it nice for, and I showed us highlighting those as a method to be able to determine like which skills is this child who is 60 months old now demonstrating, and which skills are they not demonstrating. And then finally, the decision tree for the summary rating discussions. That's that one where you can start to help the team to decide whether or not it was a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7 score. And then finally, if you need to contact us, please know that you can always contact and get great information from Jen and Sandy. And we'd be happy to reach out and meet with you or have a call for any issues that you might be having around the COAST process. So let's see,
there's some questions in the chat.
Sure.
And who is part of the team that you were referring to?
Susie, can you stop sharing your screen too, just
Yep.
so that we can see everybody?
Yep. So a team is made up of people who know the child. So general ed teachers, special education teachers, related service providers, and parents. Everybody can contribute information about the performance of that child so that we understand what those functional skills are. One example of that is, we can look at whether or not a child can hold a pair of scissors and can snip, but are they really using that to participate in the preschool activities? What is the functional use of the tools, or can the child demonstrate social emotional skills, but in the context of the everyday activities of preschool? So that's what we're really looking at, rather than domains, but more functional skills. So parents can contribute information about that because they know a lot about how their child performs at home and in childcare programs, or in the teachers can talk about any kind of special education programs.
So can I ask a follow-up? Because I asked that original question. So I'm just trying to figure out how to go about pulling these teams together because there are a lot of students that we have to do this for. I mean, yeah. What
So
to
Kate,
advise? There's so many meetings this time of year already. I don't know how we would do that.
I think one of the things you can do is have people gather that information on the tool that Jackie showed you prior to having an actual meeting. You can have people fill that out, what they know about the child skills, including those different professionals. This is a mandated, this is a federal reporting criteria that needs to be completed before before a child enters into kindergarten. So when they exit preschool. And it doesn't necessarily have to be an IEP team meeting, but it could be an IEP. It could be happening, or you might review it in an IEP meeting. It doesn't have to be an IEP meeting. You just have to make sure that you're getting certainly the parent input, because that will kind of create an understanding of generalizability of skills. And so you can do it that way.
So
If you, go ahead.
So sorry, so this could perhaps be like a shared document rather than trying to get all of yeah. I'm just sorry, I'm
Yeah,
trying
no,
to wrap my head around like the sheer number of meetings this time of year. So um that sounds like a little more feasible. So
yeah, yeah.
something.
And then if you wanted to do a quick 10-minute wrap-up Zoom call where you're like, everybody gets on the same page and reviews the results, or however that's going to work for you. This is very new to you as a cohort one, and you're going to be paving the way for everybody else. And it's very,
Okay.
also, CDS, if anyone from CDS like might talk about how you go about, you also have, some of you have screeners and you're using tools like the BDI, which would inform this. Okay. If you're using a tool like the BDI at entry and at exit, you're going to have this data. And if you use something called Teaching Gold, it will actually calculate the scores for you. So it will print out a report that says these are your scores. So that's kind of the benefit of something like that. I know, I know that some of you are using tools that are unique to your own SAU, but they work for you. So this is not an IEP team requirement. So just want to make sure you know that. And also for your cohort, there is no 676 students. If there is a child who has repeated preschool, that would be a retention of the student because 676 only applies to CDS.
So sorry, Erin, because that was my question too. I was referring to like we were given that spreadsheet from the state, and there's students on there that were 676 last year. So they're currently in our pre-K, but they already have exit scores on the costs on the spreadsheet I was given because they attended CDS and then they came to our pre-K. So
Gotcha.
yeah.
In that case, and Susie, please correct me if I'm wrong, you would have to get updated scores.
Okay, so
No, Susie says no, you
No,
don't.
we aren't going to, if the child is older than five, if the child is eligible for kindergarten as a 5-year-old and but they're not attending that kindergarten program, they would not be included in this. We don't include children who are older than that are kindergarten age, that are school age. It's only preschool age children.
And we're going to write that down and give it to you again because I've confused you. I'm very sorry about that. Is that clear for you though? You don't have to do it twice.
That's clear for me. So yeah, if they have an exit score already because they've done 676, then I do not have to include them on my spreadsheet this year.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
So just remember, there's 2 times that you would be doing this. One is when they enter into, and if it's a C to B transition, it would be then. Doesn't have to be at the IEP meeting, but you should be getting that COAST score at the entry and then when they are kindergarten eligible.
Can I ask a quick question about what you just said about the C to B transition? If we're just seeing the C to B transition, like, is there a date by which the C to B transition has to happen to get to put in the entry score?
So Erin, want me to take that one? When the child with an IEP is enrolled in your program, that's when you're going to get an entry score. So the child who's transitioning from early intervention is leaving that early intervention program, and they should be going into your program as a 3-year-old. But let's say there's a gap in the time frame between when they turn 3 and when they enroll in your program. The data is collected early in the enrollment in the early childhood special education preschool program. So it's not data on the children as they exit early intervention, although CDS is doing an entry. They also have to do this, an entry and an exit score. But the exit score from early intervention is not the same as an entry score in preschool. So there is a time lapse, and there are also potentially different expectations for a 3-year-old compared to what's expected for a 2-year-old. So we assess upon entry, which means enrollment into the ECSE program.
So for practical reasons, let's say the child is found eligible in June and is starting their program in the fall. So once they start the program, Susie and CDS, do you give them like the first couple of months in that program? Are you assessing that information the first couple of months?
Our guidance has said in that guidance document, and I can put the link to that. We do have a guidance document on this. It says as early as possible after enrollment in the program. So the reason for that is that you want to grab that score, that performance of that child as early as possible when they enroll, so that when they leave, there's as much time as possible. Usually it's only about 17 months that they're enrolled in the program. So that performance, between entry and exit, we're trying to give it as much time in between there. So all of the great instruction that's happening in the middle there is showing as much impact as possible. So assess early after enrollment, assess late prior to exit.
All right, it looks like certainly this is the first time you've done this and you have maybe some questions, please reach out to us because we will, meet with you and discuss and be a thought partner around how best to do this. In some SAUs, it might not be that many children, but in like RSU 13, there's a lot of children who are probably transitioning into kindergarten. So let us know if you need some support. And I do think, Susie, we have time to do the other presentation.
Yep, let me pull that one up.
Erin, can I ask one more question before we?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Sorry.
Don't be sorry. Your questions are helping everybody.
Okay. So again, I'm just looking at this list that was given. And this may be specific to us, but our MOU, we have CDS that is still providing services to some of our kiddos. So for those students, who is would CDS then complete, and Gail, you're on here too, would CDS complete the costs since our providers really wouldn't know these students. So is that how it works? I see Gail nodding, so I think so.
That seems reasonable.
Okay. Thank you.
Because again, most of the people working with that child are not in your RSU.
Right.
So
Okay. Thank you.
I'm trying to pull up our presentation. I pulled up the one that had the recordings attached to it. I have to find a blank one. Let's see. Partnering, where is it?
take your time, Susie. We've done a lot of presentations.
Yeah, every one of these has the audio on them. I'm got to figure out how do I present it without the audio.
I just shared it with you, Susie.
Oh, you did?
Yep.
In the Teams?
Nope, I
Or-
just sent it through shared.
Okay. Oh, so in my email it will be?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it should be. Let me know if it's not.
I think if I didn't push the button to share the audio, it won't play it. That's what I'm thinking. So might be thank you for your patience. It's a long way from Maine to Arizona, so it takes a long time for it to get here. It's not here yet, Jackie. Oh, here we go. Got it. Yay. Come on. Here we go. There we go. So as you can see on this one, we shared this back in, I think, a couple of weeks ago. And that was the day that we had all the trouble with the Zoom. So some people were not able to get on. Here is the presentation that we did for that day. So this is about building community partnerships to provide FAPE in the mixed delivery system. So SAUs partnering with childcare programs. And so what we have today are some tips and tools for doing that. As schools begin to offer special education programs and services to children that reside in their catchment area to provide a FAPE, they may begin to consider forming partnerships with early childhood programs in their community to do so. Building effective partnerships means having common goals and understandings that result in mutual benefit, and they often happen through dialogue and collaboration. And any agreement that's developed includes clear language that outlines what the partners will do as a result. Today's presentation is intended to support the development of partnerships and provide tips on what would likely be needed in any agreements that are developed. Now, an agreement may be more formal or informal and may include such formats as a memorandum of understanding or a contract. That would be up to the individual needs of the schools and programs involved. We hope to support you to consider a wide range of possibilities as you reach out to partner with programs in your community. And Sandy,
Hi, yes, I can share about this slide. So for Cohort 1, last year we provided guidance when you were partnering with early childhood education programs, that those programs should have a 2-star rating on the Rising Stars for Me ladder that is through the Maine Road to Quality. Throughout the year, we met as teams and had lots of thoughtful conversations and discussions about what that standard should be. And as a team that is supporting the mixed delivery system, we made a determination that 3-star rating for early childhood education programs would be appropriate. And so knowing that we had some SAUs in Cohort 1 already partnering with Star 2 programs, we developed a timeline to support the movement for those programs to move from a 2-star to a 3-star rating. First of all, we, at that April 16th meeting, which some of us weren't able to attend, wanted to provide that information, and I don't think we were able to do that. That's why we're repeating this presentation. We also have reached out to or will be reaching out to our current programs that collaborate with and contract with CDS to be a early childhood tuition, right? Jackie, am I saying that right? Tuition program.
Yes, Early Childhood Educational Tuition Agreement Program.
See, I will get that right someday. And then actually yesterday, we presented to all the childcare providers. We invited all childcare providers in the state of Maine to a webinar and provided this information as well. So really what this talks about is that if a school district is, or CDS is working with a program that is 2 stars, we have a very generous timeline of 2 years. The programs can apply for a waiver to continue to work with the SAUs or CDS. And then they have 2 years to work with their Maine Road to Quality and early their childcare licensing support team to get to that 3-star rating, with the goal to have all of our programs that are working with CDS and the SAUs by 2027.
excellent. Thanks, Sandy. So as Sandy was talking, I was thinking, oh, great, this slide is perfect for after that. There are many entities serving preschool age children with and without disabilities. Many have partnered to achieve delivery of high quality services. These partnerships were based on positive relationships that were designed to meet each partner's needs. Documentation describing how programs will operate together to serve the needs of their community was another step in the process. In this graphic, we see that many groups have established partnerships and use such tools as MOUs or contracts or some other type of written agreement. There are agreements between the Department of Ed and CDS, between private childcare and CDS, between school districts and Head Start, between the department SAUs and public pre-K. And today we're going to be focusing on the development of partnership agreements between SAUs and private childcare. This is just another way to look at the various agreements presented on the prior slide and shows the partners, the purpose of the agreement, and who is involved. So as you look down this column where you see SAUs, you can see that they're involved already in lots of different partnership agreements. And today we're going to be focusing on this bottom line, SAU and childcare. If it's in the best interest of your community in order to serve children and their families with disabilities. SAUs and private childcare programs may choose to work together to provide settings and services to the preschool children with and without disabilities in their community. As we said, this presentation is intended to help SAUs as they begin to have those conversations together. Co-designing a partnership agreement will help establish a written agreement that defines the activities, the supports, the services, and who will be engaged in that work. Partnership agreements can ensure smoother transitions for everyone involved to provide comprehensive services, helping to create high-quality programming with the goal of building everyone's capacity to meet the needs of their community. And Jackie.
Thank you, Susie. So we're going to talk a little bit about the benefits of these community partnerships. A great deal of research has taken place in the last 25 years on school and community partnerships, and these are the most frequently ascribed benefits. We have improved outcomes for students, improved family engagement and involvement, strong social and emotional development in students, access to a range of high-quality programming to meet unique needs, improved transitions, trust, support, and shared responsibility, and increased access to resources. In the next slide, I'm going to talk a bit about some examples of success stories that will highlight some of these benefits that you just heard. So for success stories, one of the more obvious ones is that child development services and the mixed delivery service partnerships that we have with many community partners. We have partnership agreements with Head Starts, SAUs, and with countless community and private programs across the state of Maine to ensure FAPE is possible for children with disabilities ages 3 to 5 in that mixed delivery system. The second example is Educare, who partners with both their local SAU and CDS in an effort to provide the space and the types of programming children in their community need. Challenges such as staffing, capacity, and space were overcome by working together and finding creative and flexible ways to share resources and ensure the delivery of services in high-quality settings. And lastly, Choices Preschool is an integrated program created through a partnership between RSU 1 and community programs that they found to be successful in serving children in their communities and with forming deep connections with families and programs right into elementary school. And on this slide, we're going to talk about how in October of school year 23-24, 20% of the 2,500 eligible preschool children with disabilities, approximately 640 kids, were enrolled in 2 different programs at the same time, part-time in a special education program and part-time in a general education program, meaning that they had to perhaps be on multiple bus or car rides and learn alongside 2 entirely different sets of expectations, curriculum, and peer groups. Through partnership, delivering special education services in the program the child is enrolled in, wherever that may be, is possible and could positively impact children's early childhood educational experience. And we wanted to provide an overview of the process of developing these partnerships. So if you are partnering, you have already established, or are thinking about partnering, you have already established the need, which is, do we need to collaborate with other programs to offer a continuum of placement options? You probably have thought about who the partners would be. Who in the community is offering early childhood programming? You want to start thinking about establishing a relationship. Are there ways we can work together to serve our community's needs? You want to establish the purpose. What are the common goals and the current capacities? And you want to commit. What might be our roles and responsibilities be? What will we share? And of course, the importance of check-ins. How often should we check in on things, on how things are going? And in talking in that overview about the process, one of the biggest pieces was that relationship building. We want to spend a little time talking about this since it's an essential and valuable part of working together. Reaching out to community partners signals that we have trust and respect for their work. The ways in which we communicate by inviting participation, sharing that trust and respect, and being clear about how we will work together all help to strengthen any partnership. When things are challenging or when there is success, true partnerships have empathy for one another and think frequently about the other's well-being. We have some examples of the 4 elements. Empathy, which is willing to come to the aid and rescue of each other when it's needed, and putting yourself in the other person's shoes. Some examples of communication would be reaching out and being willing to ask for help, and revisiting the agreements and bringing up issues as they arise. Examples of trust would be to state what the problem is and live with uncertainty and take risks for the greater good. Examples of respect would be to follow agreed upon roles and responsibilities and be willing and open to learn from others. So in the agreement, you will want to cover all of these elements. So when program providers understand each other's programs and have a positive relationship and they understand each other's goals and needs, they may be ready to take that next step to develop the partnership agreement. Each program contributes to the development of the agreement and shares information and ideas, and there is interest and willingness so they can begin to develop the details of what their partnership will look like, including the who, which could be childcare program staff or SAU staff or administrators. The what, which would be what age groups or class sizes, the delivery of services and IEP meetings, supervision activities, and communication with parents and staff. What will the when look like? Talk about annual calendars, days per week of programming, hours per day of programming, the difference between special education and non-special education times. The where will look like enrollment setting, location, and description of the physical environment. And finally, the how, which would include things like the fiscal relationships, transportation, behavior policies and other policies, and ongoing PD and how that would be shared. In summary, collaboration and coordination equals serving communities through effective partnerships. And we do have a handout that we created to go with this that kind of pulls from our experiences having these community partnerships and gives tips and tricks, and also a lot of the things that you might not think about that would be important talking points for your partnership agreements. And as always, you can contact us for any support with the next steps. We are always here to help. You can reach out to myself or Sandy Flack. It's also a great idea to reach out to your CDS site directors if you're thinking about partnering, because they have a lot of knowledge about programs in that area and which ones they may recommend. And we have a list of resources here for you, including a Vimeo clip that talks about that one of those success stories, the partnership between RSU1. And that video talks a lot about what they tried and what did and didn't work, and the successes that they experienced, which you may find very helpful. And that's it, if there are any questions.
So that's the agenda. Sandy, if you wanted to, final words.
No, thank you everybody for pitching in today. Happy Teacher Appreciation Day and week out visiting preschool classrooms. It's been awesome.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great afternoon.